Hey guys, welcome back to Bold of You to Say. Today's episode is a bit of a departure from the regular show. I invited some old friends, Nick and Kate, into the studio to tell some stories from our time on the Seeds Conservation Corps. We recorded for about 4 hours, so it had to be split into parts. This one will be mostly stories about our old supervisor, one of the most interesting characters I've worked with. Nick can be found on YouTube as Raccoony the Legend. He does a lot of gaming videos as well as Storytime videos, which was the inspiration for this podcast. Link in description. Now on with the show.
Well, I'm going to start with Drew's story. He wanted me to tell the orange house one.
Sweating like an orange house.
Really? Yeah, that's the one he wanted me to tell. So you were there for that, weren't you, Alex? So I feel like it'd be better coming from you because I was in Wyoming at the time.
Yeah, so we were on our way. It was between job sites at Seeds. And it was me and Nick, and Mike was driving. And I think there were a couple other people, but basically Mike mentioned that he was like sweating like a whore in church because it was like a hot day out. And later in the day, Nick was like, man, I'm sweating like an orange church. And then even later, he was like, it's hot as an orange house. See, we have this theory that Nick, you have this like game of telephone that goes on in your head and where you hear something and it just gets repeated over and over again until it's just morphed into something way different.
Right, it's like the pizza's like sex thing.
Oh yeah.
So let's pull this up.
This is another Mike story.
See what he said.
Is this just
so
like...
I feel like we should set up Mike was one of the team leaders, like a supervisor you could say, at Seeds where we worked over the summer last year.
Yeah.
And I say was because he was an HR disaster. But anyway, this guy, we were at the gas station, and he got some pizza, and it was gas station pizza, so nothing spectacular. But he was like, kids, pizza is like sex. Even when it's bad, it's good.
And a couple days ago, we have a group chat that we talk in constantly. We were talking about like the stories we're gonna do, right? So Alex mentioned like Mike's stories, so Nick tried to quote Mike on that one, and this is what Nick said: "Women are like bad pizza. Even if it's bad, it's still good." And that's not even close, obviously, because pizza is like sex, even if it's bad.
This is like a Jeff Ross roast me,
We're
isn't
like,
it? This is literally just a roast me, isn't it?
The first 15 minutes of this is just going to be a Nick roast.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Now, do you want to get into some more Mike stories?
So, the first time we met Mike, first day on the job, right? We get in there, and we're all in a group, right? So Mike...
Keep in mind, this is the first day of work.
Very first day. First time I've ever seen this dude in my entire life.
The first impression he chooses to give off.
On all 20 of the crew members and leaders. So he gets us all into a big group. And the first sentence that comes out of his mouth is, "My name is Mike. And I'm an alpha male."
He's like, yeah, I'm an alpha male or whatever you want to call it.
I was a Marine, so I'm kind of a hard ass. And Marines are alpha male types.
See, he's a hard ass on everyone but himself.
Exactly. Like,
no, this guy, right after Jennifer, what is she? Like, what's her title?
She's like the head of the company. I think like under Sarn.
Very inexperienced.
She's like the head of she's like the head of the conservation corps, right?
Yeah, the head of the conservation.
She's like the director.
Something like that. Anyway, after she gets done talking about like the workplace environment, and the head of HR gets done talking about how, like, there's certain things you can't say at the workplace. Like, you can't like say sexist things, when it's Mike's turn to talk,
That's when
he
things
goes
go a
over
little overboard.
he goes over, like, making first impressions, which is ironic coming from him. He talks about, like, handshakes and how handshakes are important. Genuinely, they are. They're an important first impression. But he talks about, like, how, like, guys' handshakes are more, like, firm than women's. And, like, how if you're a guy, you gotta be careful not to, like, break a girl's hand when you're shaking it.
And keep in mind, this is right after Jennifer had just explained to us, when you're shaking a woman's hand, don't be sexist about it, because some women have very strong handshakes.
I feel like she knew.
It was like 30 seconds later, and
It was a premonition.
I feel like she was, like, preemptively, like, trying to shut Mike down, but he just was like,
he just persisted.
it's a woman talking, who cares?
Yeah, like, the way Mike was he wanted his wife in the kitchen, like, or his fiance.
You guys always made fun of me for saying that.
Yeah, and we still will.
We still will. Yeah, his fiance, he explained to me multiple times, spent most of her time in the kitchen cooking for him. And according to him, that's the way a woman should be. And he tried to explain that to me multiple times. And I would just have to sit there and listen to it, because I'm not trying to make car rides with this dude awkward, because I have to work with him the rest of the year,
Yeah.
Mike also didn't believe in climate change.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
this is
dude,
this
that made
is the
me
guy we're
so
dealing
mad.
with.
No. He does believe in climate change. He just thinks that the world's getting colder.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Just it's changing in the opposite direction.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the ice caps, I mean, they're melting because
No, like
it's
when
getting colder.
When you look at the numbers, the numbers.
It doesn't say any
when
sources.
you look at the
This,
numbers,
no
it's
valid sources.
It's the numbers, man.
So
the numbers.
It was the winter after the polar vortex. So for like a week straight, it was like -30, -40. It was cold, right? And whenever climate change would come up, Mike would always bring up that week and how he thinks it's getting colder. But if you look at it this year, water is rising. Like, some people have had to move on the peninsula because their houses have been flooded.
Right, yeah, I'm like 15 minutes away from Alberta, 20 minutes away from Alberta, and there's a stretch of road that's literally flooding.
Yeah. So next year, I'm sure that will be, like, closed down. They're gonna have to, like, do something, like, as far as building, like, a ramp or a new bridge to cross it, because the water
Or maybe some kind of, like, dam. I don't know.
Maybe a dam would work, but the water is on both sides. Like, it's coming up on
you'd
both
have
sides
to, like,
of the road.
wall it off.
And if they built a dam there, it would kind of mess with, like, the river. And
But on the other hand, we did have a polar vortex, so
yeah, so it's getting colder, obviously, because
Yeah.
it was -30 for 1 week in
hottest
December.
year on record. But, like, we had a polar vortex, so it doesn't. Those two things cancel out.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just carry some stringers down there and let's build another bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Don't let Nick put the first stringer in, because it'll be crooked.
A stringer, for those of you at home, is it's basically a giant ass piece of wood that you don't want to carry.
It's around 200 pounds.
So we got some more Mike stories. Let's talk about the boat.
I wasn't there, so.
Yeah, I don't. Nick, were you there? I don't think any of us
boat.
were.
Do you mean the boat, like the trip that we took?
The trip that we took?
I was there. I was
You
on.
were-
Yeah, I was
so
there.
Were we on the same boat?
Oh my god, were you with Isaac?
I think so.
Yes. Wait, was it when he was making fun of the girls?
When Mike was He was like hitting on
he made
the
fun
captain.
of
Dude,
he made
that
fun
guy
of
is so
Elliot,
lame.
didn't he?
Oh my god.
He made fun of Elliot for like not pulling in a
Yeah,
rope faster
so-
than the captain of the ship.
So on this trip that we took, it was like an educational like field trip, and we went on a boat, and it was supposed to like teach us about like cooperation or whatever, and the captain was a woman, and she was teaching us like, you know, the basics of like putting up a sail and stuff, and a lot of rope pulling. Basically anything that you have to do on a boat involves pulling ropes. And she was like, does anyone want to try to see if they can do it faster than me? And one of the team members, Elliot, volunteered, or he either volunteered or he was the only one that, you know, didn't nose goes it.
He was voluntold.
Wait, who
He
was
was
Elliot
voluntold.
again? Was he with us?
He had blonde hair.
I think
Tall
this all
guy.
happened on the other. There were two separate trips, and I wasn't on the boat with Mike, but I did hear all about it the next day.
So I happen to hear from Elliot. Elliot talked to me a lot about this day for like the next couple weeks after I got back. And Elliot was basically racing the captain of the boat to see who could pull in a rope faster. And Mike walked up to him and whispered in his ear, apparently, and told him that he should be ashamed because he was being beat by a girl who, remember, is the captain of the boat, who had captained this boat for, 10 years?
Something like that, yeah.
So obviously someone who's a professional at like doing this on a day-to-day basis is going to be faster. But Mike still found the need to make fun of one of the crew members for pulling in a rope slower than the captain of the boat. So I heard about that for probably like I got back from Wyoming about a week after that incident, and for the next month at least until we all left from school, it was brought up on a day-to-day basis. And it was also brought up that Mike would constantly hit on the captain of the boat, like Alex said. And you have to keep in mind that almost like every other day, Mike would mention that he has a fiance.
He was very proud.
Oh my god.
Very, very proud. He made me look him up on Facebook to see his proposal pictures.
Yeah, very terrifying photos. She looks like she's like being held captive.
She does.
Oh my god. I'd like to add a little thing onto that boat trip. It was we were on a sailboat, and a bunch of people got to take turns on sailing the boat. And there wasn't much wind, so we used the engine and stuff instead of using the sail. And Mike was, well, there we had some people. We had Natalie there, and there was also another fellow member named Manny, but Natalie was one of the crew leaders. And he was saying some funny stuff about Manny. I don't remember what it was, but he did that in the past. But he was saying some stuff about Manny. That's all I remember about the trip, is that. And I remember him hitting on Natalie because she had more exposed skin than usual.
Oh.
So it was getting kind of hectic there.
Natalie,
if you can imagine.
Natalie had a lot of issues with men last year.
Yeah.
I feel
Specifically, I won't say like what he does or where it is, but there was a guy named Ron.
Oh my god.
Oh, the
Dude. No, the one that...
I can edit this. You can say
Oh
it.
yeah. So township community guy.
The guy that wouldn't
older
let go of
guy
your hand when you took a handshake.
He
wouldn't
knows
let
who
go.
we're talking about. He just didn't know what he did. Like when we worked
Is he
in
the one that called Manny that Mexican fella?
Yes, that one. So, where was I? Natalie got a lot of remarks from him and Mike last year. She had a lot of problems with, like, I guess you could call it sexual harassment, because that's what it was.
Yeah.
Wait, did she take it from Ron?
She took it from Ron, yeah.
What? I want to hear this. I don't know about this
Ron
juicy
did
little
the
thing.
same exact thing to one of the crew members this year, too.
See, all I heard about Ron was that he called Manny that Mexican fella.
That's all I heard as well.
He,
I want to hear
first
this.
time I met him, right? He walks up, or no, I walk up to him. He's standing on a ramp. I go to shake his hand. Hello, I'm Caden. And I go to pull my hand away, and apparently he did this to every one of us. He wouldn't let go of our hands.
Made me so uncomfortable.
He did the
See, that's
same.
why I don't shake hands.
Were you there?
He did the
Alex?
same thing this year too, and he was, for some reason, he like took it that I was kind of like in charge there this year because apparently it was my second year and I was the only one he knew, so he would like make fun with me, like I'd be carrying a wheelbarrow of wood chips down off the ramp, and he'd take one out of there and like put it on my shoulder and tell me, "You're a chip off the old block." Like
Oh my god, dude!
like a wood block.
Oh,
I can't imagine
hate
how
it so much.
I can't imagine how awkward that would be. And you guys don't know, like, his age and the way he looks. It kind of like makes me uncomfortable being
He's-
around him. He's one of those people. If you see him, you'd stay away. At
He's-
least in my opinion.
He's apparently the kind of guy to cross over between prop comedy and puns.
So he's
ugh.
like 68, 70 years old. He's retired, right? He goes to Texas in the winter.
Not
and
retired enough, apparently.
Not retired enough. That's right. He's a Michigan native, I believe, but he does spend his time in Texas during the winter. Well, back to the first time I met him, shook his hand and everything, and he goes, "You look like a hard worker. Would you like to come haul wood with me this winter?" As in firewood for wood stoves. And I didn't realize how creepy that statement was at the time. But, like, this was not even 30 seconds I had met this guy. I go, "Hi, I'm Caden. Hi, I'm Ron." And he goes, "You look like a hard worker. You want to come haul wood with me this winter?" And when a pedophile-looking guy says that to you...
When he says that, he literally does. The glasses and his, like, wrinkly skin.
See, his name being Ron and him being like old. I'm picturing
old
like
white
Ron.
dude.
I'm picturing like Ron Paul saying that, but it's fun if you imagine it being Ron Swanson.
Yes.
So like it's all about how you frame it in your mind.
Anyway, about a week later, Ron came back looking for me and the other crew member whose name was Manny. By the way, Manny is not Mexican. He's not Puerto Rican. He's Guatemalan. So Ron walks in and asks our crew leader, Adam, best guy ever, by the way.
Total bro.
Dude,
Total bro.
Amazing dude.
Anywho, Ron walks up to Adam and asks for me by name and calls Manny a little Mexican fellow. Adam got
that's
offended
terrible.
for Manny, but Manny found it hilarious because Ron didn't even get his like ethnicity right. So what Manny went by for the rest of the year, even during the school year when I'd see him at TCAPS, what we'd call Manny for the rest of the year was the little Mexican fellow, which sounds racist, but
It sounds
when,
racist
when you
'cause it
know
is.
when we
It's
tell
an
this
in-joke.
when we when we tell the story of how he
that.
got that nickname, people usually find it funny. Yes, an in-joke, Nick.
I hate that. I hate that sentence because it brings up that Jesus-looking dude.
Nick.
That Jesus looking dude.
Yeah, that dipped his hair in a fryer.
Oh,
Oh.
Rob
Rob.
from your Storytime video.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I just gave up on it.
You
dude.
gave up.
I just kept
I know.
stuttering and I kept accidentally saying and I'm like, you know what? I just give up. But anyways,
Alex brought up the point that you could have edited that last night.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I don't-
clearly have the capability to
I just
edit your
didn't care.
videos.
Anyway, now that
If we slip up and say his name, I'm just gonna
cut
cut in a
Rob.
text to speech recording of Rob.
Rob.
I'll just call him
Rob.
Honestly, I don't
Well,
care.
anyways, to add on to Caden's little story here with the little Mexican fella, we were mainly down there to put some what is this stuff called again?
Where
Wood
were we?
chips and dirt. Mulch. We were laying mulch down for a trail, and we were cutting out some plants and crap to put in some benches and stuff down there. And wasn't that our last job? I'm pretty sure it was our last job.
It was your guys' last job. I went back to Sawdust Hole for
All right.
another week.
So I remember that being our last job, and I was talking to Adam, like, again, the coolest guy in the world. And
Adam,
we were trying
again, we do not have enough words to just hype this guy up.
Adam was a
amazing dude.
professional gamer for a time in his life, and he'd talk about video games with us.
He was like a pro gamer, but also like
a very
Whole
laid-back
Foods
dude.
Uh,
aficionado.
Yeah.
Kind of like a hippie.
Philosophers mixtapes. He'd listen to
We'll get-
philosophers.
We gotta do
I
a whole
can't-
thing on that, dude.
He's like into philosophy without being pretentious, which is a very thin line to walk.
Yeah.
But anyways, besides that Adam dude, I decided to do a prank on somebody. I tried to do a prank on Caden. It was really bad, but we'd have very long drives between work sites. So a little group decided to do like photoshopping. Some members of this group, and I tried putting those skills to the test because Caden just got a car from his dad, and we were trying to pull a prank that we were balancing a pitchfork on our hands, and we accidentally dropped it and leave scrapes on his car that his dad lended him.
Which made absolutely no sense to me because the car was parked across the parking lot from the mulch pile. So the fact that they'd even have a pitchfork anywhere close to that car, like, baffled me. But I did kind of fall for it at first until I saw...
Wait, leave that part to me.
Okay.
I got a thing to add on to that. But anyways, so I was asking Adam about it, and he actually let me sit to the side and Photoshop it while everybody was working, which was actually kind of funny. And I regret...
Imagine being one of the people working with them.
Did you just see this kid on his phone just in the corner? But anyways, my photoshopping skills weren't the best, but besides that, we actually got Adam to go down there and talk to Caden about his car. And it was just that part was funny, but the Jesus-looking dude that dumped his hair in...
Rob.
Rob dumped his hair into a
Deep
pot
fryer.
of a deep fryer. He decided to tell Caden that it was a prank and that wasn't even real.
No,
Yeah, asshole.
I asked him. I did ask him.
Rob.
So I noticed something about this Photoshop picture. So all of the tine marks from the pitchfork are straight. The one on the left
It's really crooked.
was sideways.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that.
It was sideways on the car. So, for those of you that don't know, usually when a pitchfork falls, it's kind of impossible for just one of the three tines to be in a different direction than the other two.
Because it's a fork.
It's a pitchfork and it's straight. So, I knew that Nick probably photoshopped this picture and
Rob.
just solidified that for me. I figured it was photoshopped. I figured it was a prank. But, I was kind of worried that you guys would have to pay for, like, the paint job on my dad's car. I wasn't worried that I was going to get in trouble with my dad because
He knows the people you hang out with. It was only a matter of time. we can close out the Mike stories now. We can finish the saga with how he
What?
how
I
he
had
got
a Mike
fired.
Story.
Oh my god, dude.
Who wants to
Wait,
start? Who
alright.
wants to start with this one?
I'll start.
Do we have any more before the final
Yes,
one?
I got one.
You got one?
I got one. All right, so I'll do this one since I was the one in it, and I found it actually extremely embarrassing. I'm the type of person that doesn't see embarrassment that often, and this one was just weird. But anyways, I just can't believe I didn't get this. I'm not a good person when somebody says something sarcastically. I'm just not that type of person that catch on to it. So we were at the well, actually, we can say some things about the boardwalk before we get to the ending part of the Mike stories.
There
But
is a bit of
anyways,
crossover with Rob.
yeah, but I guess that can be left for Rob's stuff. But anyways, we were down there. I don't remember what he said exactly, but I guarantee you Caden remembers every single word. But it was basically when we got finished with the boardwalk, and he said something about it being a rainy day and to wear light clothing the next day. And I didn't really understand what he meant. Like, it was, I don't know. It was kind of weird to me. But anyways, the next day when he meant that, I guess everybody was going to go swimming after work. But,
After work, we were gonna be working.
But anyways, when we were working, you have to wear boots. I don't know if they have to be steel-toed.
They have to
I've
be
got-
steel-toed.
All right, they have to be steel-toe boots. We have to wear pants because we're dealing with like heavy equipment and like trails, you know, like
You don't want to get
foliage.
I
Yeah, you
actually-
just don't want to get hurt. Safety precautions. And I wore tennis shoes and shorts to work.
like a dick.
So, for 2 whole weeks, we were on a project called Trap Farm,
Ugh.
which was about 700 feet of boardwalk.
It's a nice little trail.
He said he was 3 football fields long. That's what he said it was.
Yeah,
Pretty long.
around 3 football fields. So it was long. For those of you that don't know how heavy a 5-gallon water cooler is, go
Water boy.
go fill a wheelbarrow with 2 of them and 10 gallons of vinegar, and try and carry it 300 yards on a narrow boardwalk. It usually doesn't work out well. Anyway, for 2 whole weeks, Mike had told us, next Friday, if we finish early, we will go swimming after work. So the day before, we were on schedule to finish early, like Mike had said, for probably like 3 or 4 days.
And this is
the
actually a
previous
rare
week.
good guy Mike story,
It
by
is.
the way.
He also bought us pizza that week. So.
Yeah, this was cool guy Mike.
And somebody tipped it over into the grass.
Rob tipped it over.
Rob.
Fucking Rob.
Rob. I still ate it, though.
I did too. Anyway.
People are disgusting.
The day before we go swimming, we have to finish building some stairs. So Mike tells me to tell the rest of the crew, there's gonna be rain in the forecast tomorrow, so wear your work clothes, but also bring shorts, a t-shirt, and like tennis shoes or sandals, because you're gonna get wet by the end of the day. So
Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
yeah, he told us to wear our work clothes, just bring shorts with us. The next morning, we show up to Benzie's, it was Papa J's. We show up to Papa J's in Honor, which is a big parking lot. Nick and Alex get out of the car. The first thing I notice is Nick is wearing his Seeds shirt, which we had to wear, which was
It's the uniform.
It's the uniform. Nick is wearing his Seeds shirt, shorts, and tennis shoes. And I could just hear now one of Mike's grown-ass man speeches, which we'll cover later.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to it.
Oh my god.
I could just hear it in the back of my mind. the first thing I see when Mike pulls up is him roll down his window in this big Ram 1500, rolls down his tinted window, takes off his sunglasses, and looks Nick up and down and said, "Are those steel-toe tennis shoes, Nick?" And Nick goes, "No, they're not." And, like, in the most dumbfounded way, too, like, no, why would there be, like, steel-toed tennis shoes?
We're gonna get
like,
wet.
And then Mike just tells him, "I don't think you're understanding me. Are those steel-toed tennis shoes?" And Mike literally had to wink at him about 5 times for Nick to finally understand what he was trying to say.
It's that game of telephone, I tell you.
I didn't know you guys seen that.
And me and Alex are in our work pants and work boots.
Clearly, we got the memo.
We got the memo. Nick is wearing shorts and tennis shoes. So we show up to the job site where Nick is helping a crew member named Matt. Really good guy. Carpentry major, I think he was.
Another great guy.
Amazing dude. Texas boy.
Nick was helping Matt, and when he was done down there, he comes up. Me and Alex are building these stairs, so we're leveling off where the wood has to go and tamping down the gravel that goes in between these logs. Nick gets up there and goes, "Mike told me I can't use a trunching axe, which is also known as a rogue hoe. And if you don't know what it is, the easiest way for you to understand would be to look it up, because it's hard to explain. It's got a very sharp edge on the bottom.
It looks like it's made for cutting off toes.
Yes. Mike told him that he cannot use certain tools that are sharp, but Mike didn't specify which tools. So Nick gets up there. First thing he picks up is a rogue hoe.
Yeah, because he was gone.
The very first thing he picked up. And I go, "Didn't Mike tell you not to use, like, certain tools?" And Nick just looks at me and looks at, like, the sharp edge of the rogue hoe. Looks dull to me, and then starts chopping at the ground with the rogue hoe. And I just let him go, because if Nick chops off his toes, that means I get to drive him to the hospital and we're all out of there.
I don't think we should let him around sharp objects, like, normally.
No. Yeah. We were also sworn to secrecy on the swimming. And somehow Drew, another great kid, found out from all 3 of us. So I was talking to Drew a couple weeks ago.
Wait, did he tell Jennifer?
No.
Oh,
I was talking to Drew a few weeks ago, and I go,
Well, if Jennifer ever listens to this, we all just told her.
yeah. I go, "Drew, did I ever tell you when Mike took us swimming last year?" And he goes, "Yeah, all 3 of you told me to keep it a secret and not to tell the others that I told you." And I was like, I knew I told you, but, I didn't know the other 2 told you also." And he goes, "Yeah, I've got all your guys' secrets, so." And I was like, "Oh, that's not a good thing, because, I mean, I guess it's a decent thing, because Drew has, like, one, consistent friend, and that's his girlfriend. So she knows about everything, too."
And he's basically an honorary Benzie boy.
No,
So we let him in on stuff.
he is an honorary Benzie boy. Rob was kicked off the Benzie boy crew. So Drew was an honorary Benzie boy. And I'll never forget, we were pulling baby's breath on Alberta Beach.
Another story we'll get to later.
I've got one like.
Wait, are you giving the Rob one, or are you giving a different one?
No, I've got one about Drew.
Oh,
So I have a story
'Cause I'm
about
like,
Drew.
that's a
Because we
special.
do have a Rob story.
That is a
Yes.
special,
From the same-
holy,
from the same job
sacred
site.
Yep.
story that
We
will
have
be with us
multiple
forever.
We
stories.
treat it with
Care.
reverence.
We do.
Yes, it's one of the top stories that you'll hear.
I will hurt myself if I ever forget it.
And-
I will.
Anyway, how will you know that you forgot it? though?
Listen to this.
We'll tell him.
Okay. We'll let them know. Hey, you forgot this. Anyway,
You forgot it.
you forgot it. So we'd walked for a good 3 miles. I don't think Alex was there this day. I think Alex had something to. No, Alex was there actually.
Was I there?
You were there.
Alright.
So we'd walked about 3 or 4 miles this day, picking up like pulling baby's breath on the beach. For those of you that don't know what baby's breath is, it's a plant.
That's it. It's a plant.
It's a plant.
It's just like it's this really
It's
light
an-
flower. It's like a flowery type. It's like a bush kind of.
Yeah.
Basically, people have it at weddings. It's like
Yeah.
they put it in their bouquets as like a sort of little fluffy thing, and when the bride throws the bouquet, or if there's just flowers set up, like period, these beach weddings they're not very good about picking up after themselves when it comes to this. So this plant, baby's breath, it stays on the beach and it starts to take roots. And what it does is it turns the sand into hard soil.
It's an invasive species, and obviously turning sand into hard soil isn't good if you want to maintain a beach, because
Yeah.
beaches are typically made of sand.
You don't want a dirt beach, and also it does kind of starve out the native plants.
Exactly. So we want to keep native plants for as long as possible, obviously. So we had been walking 3 miles, pulling baby's breath, and we're on our way back. Me, Nick, and Drew
I think I
have all
remember.
have
did it
taken our boots off, and we're walking in the water. We took about an hour to walk back, and I think the rest of the crew had been waiting there for half an hour for us. So we were walking in the water, and all of a sudden Drew looks at the ground and stops. So I stopped with Drew. I think Nick kept walking for a little ways and then realized we had stopped. But I'll never forget, Drew looks up at me and asks, "Are these my footprints?" And I go, "Yeah." The way Drew walked was he would cross his legs in front of the other. So his left foot would cross over his right foot. So if you would look at his footprints, it would look like his left foot was on his right side. So
Damn, that's badass.
Drew had Drew had stopped and looked at his footprints. I stopped with him, and he looks up at me. He goes, "Caden, are these my footprints?" And I go, "Yeah, why?" And he looks down again, and I don't know if you've ever seen someone have like a sad look on their face, like in their eyes. You can just tell that they're disappointed in themselves for something. He looks back at me with this face, and he just tells me, "I walk like a fucking retard." And then he just looks back down at the ground and just keeps walking. And you can tell that he's actively trying to stop crossing his feet at this point. But by the end, he had just given up and accepted the way he walked. But I will never forget the look on his face when he just straight up told me, "I walk like a fucking retard." Because it was one of the saddest looks I've ever seen someone give me before. And I think that's all I've got for like Drew and Mike. So
I mean, I don't know if there's any stories about it, but on the break we went up the hill and took pictures. Do you remember anything about that? Was there anything that happened up there? Wait, what do you?
there?
I remember. So
Oh, all right.
Drew and I, we had been climbing these dunes, Nick joined us a little later on in the day. Drew had gone up a dune, and I didn't know he had gone up because I had stopped to use the bathroom. So I'm walking beside Adam on the beach, and all of a sudden, Adam hears something off to the left side. So Adam stops, and I hear, "Hey, bear." For those of you that don't know, "Hey, bear" is what park rangers use. Adam was a former park ranger to scare off animals. So Adam yells up, "Hey, bear." And I just hear a ruckus coming down this hill. Drew pops out of the tree line behind Adam, and Adam almost fell over on the beach because Drew scared him so bad. And Adam just looked at him with, like, the most blank face. And then just turned around and just kept walking. And Drew looked at me, I looked at Drew, and Drew just shrugged his shoulders and followed Adam. So that's all I remember about, like, the climbing dunes part, but that was funny.
I think we should disclose the Mike stories. Do you think we should do that with, like, the final
I had one
I don't think
more
you
to
know what
tell.
disclose means.
No, I mean of just Mike, you know, like of how he got fired.
Like close out the Mike story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one more. I don't remember what it was.
Am I crazy? He said disclose.
He did say disclose.
Yeah.
Disclose is like tell someone something.
It is.
Disclose is like
Oh.
I have to disclose.
I'm disclosing this important information to you.
Oh.
Today's video is
You should-
sponsored
well,
by...
Like, hello, I have to disclose that I am.
Well,
and I moved into your neighborhood.
well, Alex,
Yeah.
this is where you should put your editing skills and take that out
Put
of
my
the
editing
podcast.
skills.
You
Put
know
his
what I mean?
editing skills.
Take that part out.
You mean put his editing skills to use.
Yes, Alex.
There we go. Now Nick's learning English, folks.
You have to forgive him. English is only his first language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just my first. But
Spanish is second.
I guess I could probably say a few things I remember about the good old Mike. I will say some things that are like little side things of stuff that I remember, and then just random stuff throughout the year of
Nick,
when
wait.
I worked. Wait, let me just put my little things in real quick,
Yeah.
and then you can finish it off.
Let him disclose.
It's
Yeah,
not,
let me disclose.
It's not like part of the finishing thing.
Yeah, I'm not finishing it.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
All right, but anyways, so I'm just adding on to some stuff that we were talking about earlier with Mike on how he gave his first speech of I'm an alpha male type or whatever you want to call me. By the way, we have r/alpha male types on
Yes,
Reddit.
subscribe
if you guys
to
wanna go there.
r/alpha
If you
male
guys want to
type.
follow us. But anyways, when he first came out, this is the only time I heard it, but he's like, "Sorry, I'm from Europe" or something. He did
Oh
some.
my God,
he did
I
some
forgot
It
about
was
that.
Australia.
So
he started.
was-
Wait. He was doing stuff, and he's like, "Sorry, my little England comes out a little bit when I start talking," and that was the only time he did that.
I
Like-
forgot about that completely. He was like supposedly born in England, then he moved to Australia or vice versa, and then he moved to America in like his early teens.
He moved to Texas.
He moved to Texas. He sounds like a Texan. I believe that he is probably from Texas. I do not for one second believe that he was ever European.
No, I
I don't-
either.
I don't believe he was either, but
He had like a whole backstory that he told us that, like, in retrospect, I don't know. I don't know if
dude,
I
half the
believe
stuff
anything he
I
says.
wouldn't believe him. But anyways, there's been many times where I've been disappointed in him. I don't know if we're gonna mention this, but I would just call it the apology. I don't know if we're gonna mention that. Very funny, even though it shouldn't be. But anyways, one day on the job, Alex and I, Caden, you were not here, but Alex and I had a little competition of picking up screws around a shed. Now, we were building a shed, and of course, something happened to it, and we had to do multiple things on it that we shouldn't have done. And there was a bunch of screws littered around the building. And he gave Alex and I the task to go around the perimeter and pick up as many screws or nails or whatever was lying around, and whoever had the most, he'd buy them lunch. Now, I think I ended up with 50, and Alex got 51. I believe that's how it was, right, Alex?
Yeah, something like that.
And Alex was a very magnanimous person and gave me
I don't know if that's a
don't
word.
know
a
what
screw.
that means.
It is a word. Go look it up. It is a word. Magnanimous.
Magnanimous.
He was a very magnanimous
keep going
person.
while I look that up.
Dude, I wouldn't lie. And
You would?
And he gave me a screw so he'd buy me a lunch. Either in any way, he didn't even get me a lunch. He did that as
how
well.
is that spelled?
I got it.
But anyways, one other thing than that, after we were sorting the screws, after we picked them up, we went and sorted them. And after that, we were just in the building forever. And Mike did this a ton, and it made me kind of irritated.
So
But
just a second. I looked it up. Magnanimous is a word. And he actually used it correctly. So we got to give you props for that.
We
We're
do.
proud
I know
of you.
my words.
We do.
Can I at least give me applause here?
Also,
Hey.
Nick, like,
Wow, is there just nothing to say?
I forgot the word, but not magnanimous. I'll never forget that. Thank you for that. But Nick is inferring that he's less powerful than Alex when he uses that word. So
What?
Alex is the king of this group.
He is the king. But anyways, he always brought this up. He'd always bring how he was an alpha male, or he'd always bring something related to his military days. And he always boasted about him being in the military when all he did was he was in charge of the money. Like, he didn't do any thing substantial.
He did admin work.
He worked in a warehouse.
I heard that he was like the treasurer, like somebody in charge of like money. And
That's what he told you. He said, I had millions of dollars of high-tech equipment go through my supply warehouse.
Yeah, that's what he
Is what he
put on his
told
what he
resume.
boasted about.
That's what he put on his resume.
That's what he
like,
told you.
That's like when you like dress up telemarketing as like working one-on-one with customers over a virtual environment.
Yeah, that's it's basically what that. It's like I can butter my boot and take a bite out of it, but that doesn't make it bread or toast or whatever that saying.
You could have just left it at bread.
He said that last year, and I'll just never forget that. I can butter my boot and take a bite out of it, but
I don't remember
doesn't make it.
Butter my boot and call me a biscuit.
I don't remember the times, but I remember he would always be super sarcastic and rude to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do remember.
I do
him,
remember
I
every
remember
day on
him-
the job site.
I remember him being like that, but I don't remember any times of what he actually said.
So Nick was actually like bullied by Mike, like not physically but verbally, and I remember.
Mentally and verbally.
I do remember one time
He did kind of jab at him like we would make
We
fun
would,
of Nick.
I don't care if you
But,
guys
like,
do
Mike-
it. Like,
we're
Mike
friends. We're friends, and we're
Wait,
also
we're
not
friends?
a supervisor.
Oh.
Yeah, Mike would be too serious about it. Mike wouldn't seem like he was joking because me and Alex would laugh after taking a jab at Nick. Mike would just stare him dead in the eyes.
and I've known.
Like, we're like, Nick, you fucking idiot. But Mike is like, Nick, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And I've known Caden and Alex for who knows how many years, and I know how they act and stuff. But Mike, I just knew him of this, like, lying English dude. Like, super redneck.
This alpha male type.
I do remember. I remember one instance, I think, where Nick made a pretty stupid pun.
Was it the mic drop?
Yeah,
I remember that.
I think it was actually.
I would always, like, make puns. Like, Rob, I'd make lemon jokes.
I'll just never forget. We were driving to a job site, and I think it was like 7 or 7:30 in the morning. So Mike was still like drinking his coffee, but he was highly irritable. and Nick made like a joke about like power lines or something, and I'll never forget.
Power line?
Mike just pulled over to the side of the road, looked at Nick, and just said, "Nick, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear you speak for the rest of the drive." And we were like on an hour drive, so like telling Nick to shut the fuck up for an hour drive is
Pretty
near
difficult.
impossible.
Yeah.
So the very next thing that comes out of Nick's mouth was another joke about the mic drop thing. And I'll never forget, Mike.
Oh my god.
Mike looked at him like he was going to strangle him when we got to that job site. But Nick knew that he fucked up because he looked at Mike as soon as he said it. And Mike just dead on stared at him while doing 70 down the highway. 70 and a 55.
70 was like his minimum speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike just straight on stared at him while driving with his knee, usually, while doing 70 down the highway. And you could tell Nick knew he fucked up because Mike never let him sit in the front seat again after that day.
Oh, I was in the front seat?
Yeah, that was the first and last time you were allowed to sit in the front seat with Mike.
Well, no, that wasn't the last time. The last time I was in the front seat was...
The day he got fired.
Yeah, the day he got fired. That was the day we were texting each other, going undercover. All right, do we have anything else about Mike besides the final story?
Well, that was a good teaser / setup for the final story.
How about we?
Yeah.
Well, the final Mike story.
but how
There's
about-
more after that.
How about we all
So-
tell what we did on when he got fired?
I
Tell what Alex did, tell what I did, and tell what you did.
I do have one more Mike story that's not related to the final story in any way. So, Mike, being the sexist, racist, homophobic person that he was,
He was homophobic?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know
I mean,
that.
even if you didn't directly say
He
anything,
didn't
there's
directly
some
say
people you
anything.
can tell.
So, Pride Month is...
He did say, he doesn't care what happens in the bedroom, just as long as you keep it private or whatever. He's like, I don't care if you fuck fish, just
Yeah.
don't involve me. It's
He-
like, yeah, people were lining up to invite you for a threesome.
Yeah, me and Mike had been talking about salmon fishing because I've lived here my whole life. I've salmon fished my whole life. I put Nick on his first salmon last year, which ended tragically.
Man, that made me so mad, but yeah.
So Mike and I had been talking about salmon fishing, and it was Pride Month, so there was a rainbow flag flying near the side of the road, and apparently Mike felt the need to say something about it. And he just goes in the most ignorant fashion you can like, I guess, like, do towards that, like towards a pride flag. He goes, I don't understand Pride Month. Why do they feel the need to give themselves a month for this? And I knew Alex was pissed. I don't know how Nick felt about that.
Was I there for that? I don't remember it.
See, I don't get angry about that stuff anymore. It's just exhausting.
Yeah, I knew Alex was mad about it. I didn't know how Nick felt about it, but I knew how I felt about it deep down inside. But coming from a family that is like that behind closed doors,
I mean, coming from a
racist
family with furries in it,
Yeah, Nick, for those of you that don't know, Nick's sister is a furry. So, anyway,
Yeah, just put that out there. Just keep it its own category. Just
you brought the furry
If your
thing up,
sister
man.
is a furry,
Well, I
she's
mean-
not your sister, she's a pet.
She's a,
she's a bad.
there we go. She's,
she
she's
is a
pet.
girl. No, I'm kidding. That was a Mike thing. It was a joke. You can edit that out if you want. All right,
We're
go on,
very
Cade.
disappointed. We're taking our
sorry.
props back from earlier.
Mic drop.
I want you to know that I hate you. But anyway, where was I? I knew how I felt deep down inside about Mike's statement about how he didn't understand why they felt the need to have a month for themselves. But I knew exactly what he wanted to hear because growing up, that's the way my family was. They were racist and homophobic. Still are. So I knew exactly what to say in this situation. I just told him that, I kind of understood it. And I knew, like, Mike had mentioned stuff about closed doors before, so I went there with it. I said, they can do whatever they want behind closed doors. I don't care. And Mike went on a rant about you can fuck a woman, you can fuck a guy, a woman can fuck another woman. You can fuck a fish for all I care. Just don't let me catch you doing it because I will beat the shit out of you.
Wait, was he saying this directly towards you?
He was saying this directly towards me.
Yeah,
This
that's
was
how he phrased it. That's how he phrased it. Don't let me catch you doing it. See,
I didn't want Alex to get an argument with Mike because I knew it wouldn't bode well for the rest of the day. So, and I knew what to say. So I said something about closed doors. I don't really agree with that because, if two people love each other, they love each other. Go ahead, show it in public. I don't care. You love who you love. So I knew Mike wanted to say something about the closed doors thing, so I brought it up. And he told me that I could fuck a fish if I wanted to behind closed doors, just not to let him catch me doing it. And that goes to show how homophobic and, like, sexist Mike was last year. Which is another reason that he got fired. On his final day, Nick, I'll let you have the honors of telling the story, or starting the story,
and
of
keep
how
in mind
Mike,
this story,
the final nail in the coffin for Mike.
It's really just the straw that broke the camel's back at that point.
All right, so I didn't really like driving with Mike that much because I
did.
Well, I was exposed to smoke a lot as a kid. Like, my biological dad was a heavy smoker, and it made me have, like, lung problems as a kid. And when I'm in the car with anybody smoking, it's usually really bad. Even if the windows are down, it's still bad. And he told all of us to be quiet because of that. So there was one of the things I didn't like about Mike, but in the case of him being fired, there was, oh my God, how many people were in the car? There was me, there was you, Alex, there was Rob, there was Caden.
Yeah, it was us, Rob, and Mike.
Somebody was in the middle seat without a seatbelt on, right? Wasn't there the armrest and you could fold it into a seat and somebody was sitting there?
Oh, yeah.
And there was no seatbelt on it.
No one was sitting there, though.
Nobody was?
No one was in that seat in that car ride.
Oh, all right. I didn't know if there was or not. I was just trying to think of what it was. But anyways, so Mike was, he doesn't like to follow the rules that much when it comes to driving. As long as he can get somewhere and there's nobody on the road, he will go as fast as he can. So basically we're going down a 55 and he was passing somebody. And after he passed him going 120, he decided to keep going. He decided to keep going 120.
He's not a fan of deceleration.
And by the way, he had the windows down, and I have contacts, so it is like ripping my eyes to shreds.
Oh.
Like, seriously, it is so hard. It's hard. And I'm literally sitting in the passenger seat, so I'm really close to a window. And I'm talking to Alex. I'm like, I get really bad anxiety when people go really fast like this. And he was going so fast that, like, the speedometer was, like, flickering.
It was maxed out.
He was maxing it for a very long time.
It maxed out at either 120 or 140.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, it doesn't matter what your speedometer maxes out at. You can always go faster than what your speedometer maxes out at, especially going down a hill. which Mike was going down a hill, and the speedometer was bouncing off of 120 because the speedometer didn't have enough room to say the speed that what Mike was going.
Yeah.
So we'll just always refer to it as 120, but
120 plus.
Let's
just say 120 plus.
just to let you know, he was doing more like 140, 150.
And
Yeah.
Even though I don't have my driver's license, I have the common sense of when you go down a hill that you at least take your foot off the gas or you at least put on the brake. I know that for much. Not like a redneck like him. But anyways, some things took in the car, but I'll let Alex explain this because he probably remembers it more than I do when we had a conversation on the phone.
Well, basically what happened was I was in the back seat, and I think I was in the middle. It doesn't matter. I was in the back with Caden and Rob, and Nick was in the front seat, the passenger seat, and he was texting me like, hey, I'm not comfortable with how fast we're going right now. Like, this is dangerous. Can you maybe, sneak a photo of the speedometer so, we have some evidence to show Jennifer
Yeah, I had
that like,
horrible.
Mike is just going way, way faster than he has any business going. Like, he's endangering us, really. And with minors in the car too, it's just liability for seeds.
Dude, if he crashed into a tree or a car, dude, I guarantee you all of us would probably be dead.
Oh yeah, either dead or severely injured.
Yeah, it would be horrible.
And any company would not want that liability. So, I get a couple photos. They're not the best quality, like, because I'm trying to sneak them. But I get one photo where the speedometer is at like 85, and then one where it's at like 100, 110. Definitely enough to show that he's going dangerously fast.
And it was on a 55.
On a 55.
On a
And
freaking
for
55.
those of you that aren't familiar with laws, especially Michigan's laws, I don't know about other states. 15 over is reckless driving. And there being 3 minors in the car, that is reckless endangerment of a minor. So Mike could have gone to prison if we chose to send it to the police instead of Jennifer.
Yeah.
So Mike, if you ever find this, thank us for not sending you to prison.
Yeah, and thanks
you're
for
welcome.
promising my free meal and the ice cream you promised to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should be grateful that he only got fired.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Bold of You to Say. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We'll be telling more stories from the job site, including our favorite stories about Rob, the weirdest guy we've ever worked with. Also, subscribe to Nick's YouTube channel, Raccoony the Legend, for great gaming content, link in description. And if this is your first time listening to Bold of You to Say, we normally do long-form discussions about our hottest takes on pop culture. If that interests you, then check out our back catalog and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening.